Hi everyone, this is going to be a first for me today. It's Chef Archie Pie here, by the way. I'm actually going to shoot my cooking video today whilst I'm going to talk over it. So I'm making a chicken stew, and this is a thrown together chicken stew. Yesterday on Twitter there was a conversation between myself and a couple of my friends about having the confidence to put together food that wasn't a textbook recipe. So today I've opened my fridge and I'm due a grocery delivery tomorrow, and my fridge is quite empty. So I had a few sticks of celery, I had some peppers chopped up in the freezer to use up, tiny amount of peppers. I had a few sticks of celery, I had 3 mushrooms, I had lots of onions, so there's some onion there. I had 1.5 carrots that I've diced. In my cupboard I've got a tin of chickpeas, a tin of chopped tomatoes, and obviously I've always got jalapeño chilies, and I've always got garlic. On my herbs and spices plate, I've thrown together some herbs and spices that I think are going to go together, consistent with something I'm enjoying this year. I'm enjoying playing with the Tex-Mex combination of cumin, paprika, chili, oregano. So on there, that there is a beautiful seasoning mix, ready-made seasoning mix I buy that involves predominantly garlic and coriander. That there you'll see is oregano, or oregano if you like. Oh, that's a cat, by the way, just in case you heard something in the background. That was Ozzy just leaving the building. In between there is a tiny teaspoon of dried thyme. Then I've got a teaspoon of each cumin and paprika. I've got some lovely chive flakes there, and I've got some parsley. And obviously in that dish I've got a couple of chicken breasts that I had in my freezer, and I've got a couple of chicken thighs. In the jug there I've got about a litre, which is a quart I think in America, or a couple of pints if you like, of chicken and vegetable stock. So I've used some good quality chicken stock cubes, and I've used some good quality vegetable stock cubes, and I've used those up. So this is very much a store cupboard come clearing out the fridge and freezer. Hi Stampy! That was my other cat Stampy, just entered the building, announced his presence, and obviously he wants to be fed. So this stage of the dish, oh, and the other thing of course is I'm going to cook this in my big wok. Yeah, okay Stamp, I'm coming shortly. Interrupted by a cat. So I'm pretty sure that as far as carbohydrates are concerned in this dish, I haven't decided yet, I may put some rice or some pasta in at the end. Having said that, we might just eat it with some beautiful crusty bread. This isn't really for the masses, this is probably just for my friends. I guess my friends, they allow me to make mistakes, they allow me to be pretty imperfect and rather clumsy. So this is for all my dear foodie chums out there who I love dearly. So there you are. Got about I don't know, roughly 3 tablespoons of olive oil in there, and I'm going to put the usual suspects in there. I'm going to put some onion. All my onion is going to go in. In goes the garlic, and in goes some chili, in goes the peppers and some celery, and now I'm going to give it a stir with my faithful wooden spoon. That's a big piece of celery. That's escaped my knife. I'm going to cut that piece of celery again. I don't want one big chunky celery. I want them all to be the same. In fact, now I've spotted about 3 or 4 chunks of celery that are far too big. for my chef's eye. Okay, I'm going to press on with that and not worry too much about it, apart from that piece there. Right. Okay, I'm not laughing at myself here, but that's all right. Great fun. So, I want to seal this now for, I'm not sure, about 6 or 7 minutes. So, I'm going to turn that down and I'm going to press pause on my record button so as not to waffle on aimlessly about things that really don't matter and at the same time bore you guys rigid. So I'll be back with you in a few minutes. So 2 minutes later, I forgot to add the carrots. This making food live, well not live, but without the luxury of editing and without the luxury of adding one's voiceover is very interesting. So bear with me. We're having a giggle anyway. If you guys, as long as you guys have got the time to hang around and watch this, it'll be fun, because obviously it's fun watching somebody just cook something. And obviously at the same time I've got something to say as well about life in general and about my cats, about my inappropriate size of celery. And my cats keep joining us every few minutes to make noises. At least Stampy's been fed, which is just brilliant. So, as I said, I'm going to cook my little selection of veggies out. I'm not adding the mushrooms yet because they don't take any cooking. So I'm going to add the mushrooms with my chicken. But before I add the mushrooms and the chicken, I'm going to throw in my herbs and spices shortly. Once these vegetables here have had a few minutes, once I've shown these vegetables to the heat for a few minutes. So I'm going to give those another 3 or 4 minutes. So 3 or 4 minutes later, I'm now going to add my, should we run through it again, shall we, just in case we've forgotten, or I've forgotten. Starting from the left hand side, top left, we've got some garlic and coriander multi-purpose seasoning going in the direction of right, clockwise. I've got some parsley, some chive, some cumin, some paprika, some thyme and some oregano / oregano, and in it all goes. Just give that a bit of a tap, just so that it get that little bit of stubborn paprika off that's stuck to the dish. Okay, so I want to turn my heat down now, because what I don't want these herbs and spices to catch. Because the problem with herbs and spices, when they catch, they start to get a bit bitter and they can get a bit smoky, and all of a sudden it changes the whole dish. Changes the flavour, it's bitter, it's not nice. And obviously that awful the awful aromatics that's given off by the burnt spices isn't just unpleasant to stand next. It also destroys every other flavour in the casserole. So all those beautiful flavours we've got, garlic, chilli, celery, all those lovely flavours that generally contribute quite effectively towards a stew, are all completely killed off by that horrible burnt taste. So, and I'm sure I'm stating the obvious for most of you, but yeah. So I've turned it down and I'm going to give that about 2 to 3 minutes, just moving it around the pan. So 2 to 3 minutes later, I'm going to throw in the mushrooms, and I'm going to throw in the chicken. Hopefully that will just slide off the dish. Look at that, lovely. Yep. So now the star of the show makes an appearance, and now I'm just going to I'm going to stir fry this with my hand firmly on the handle, because it does tend to move around. So I've been cooking this now for about 10 to 15 minutes on a low heat, and as you can see, the chicken is cooked quite nicely. So at this stage of the dish now, it's time to add some liquids and do some simmering away in order to get the chicken cooked completely and nice and tender. So I'm going to throw in the chickpeas, and I'm going to throw in the tomato. So that last interval, the chicken was cooked over a low heat for around about 15 to 20 minutes. So now, as you can see, our stew is taking shape. The only thing left really now to do is to add the stock, and then at the end I'm going to thicken it. I'm not sure how I'm going to thicken it yet. I've got to have a little think about that. I may take out 20 or 30 chickpeas, mash them with a fork and throw them back in, and use the floury thickening agent of a chickpea. But anyway, I'm going to bring that to the boil now, and once it's come to the boil, one of my American friends once said to me, it's not bring to the boil, it's bring to a boil. Whereas in the UK we say bring to the boil. So I don't know, and I don't know which is right, I don't know which is correct. So that's going to come to a boil, and I'm going to add my stock very shortly. Okay, so I'm now going to add my stock, and as I said before, there's about a litre of stock here, or a quart, or a couple of UK pints. I only found out the last 12 months that your pint in the States is different in terms of fluid ounces to our pint here in the UK. Our pint here is 20 fluid ounces, and one of my chums told me that your pint is 16 fluid ounces, so God knows why we differ like this to make life so complicated for us. But it is what it is, I suppose. So I'm going to pop my lid on now, and I'm going to simmer this for about half an hour. And as you can see, it's looking more like a stew. I'm going to leave that now for about 30 minutes on a low simmer. Okay, so we've been simmering for half an hour now. I'm going to get my large tablespoon, and I'm going to skim some of the oil. Obviously, the only fat... Oh, there's my timer. Forgive me. The only fat that's in this dish is the residual fat on the chicken pieces, and that will be minimal. And obviously there's a little bit of fat because we used 3 tablespoons of olive oil initially to fry the vegetables. So as you can see, I'm taking some oil just carefully, no rush, nice and slow, take it nice and easy, taking the oil off the top of the liquid, and I'm going to mix this oil with 2 tablespoons only of flour, and I'm mixing that in that dish. Now, in addition to that, what I've also done, I've also picked out about 30 chickpeas, and I've mashed them in a dish. So we're not just going to use 2 tablespoons of flour to thicken this, we're going to use a few chickpeas as well. So it will have some body when you sit down with your family, with your friends to eat it. So I'm going to take a tablespoon of the paste, and I'm just going to gently stir that in with my wooden spoon and bring that to a boil. Just gently stir that in of that paste, and then we can put another tablespoon in, and hopefully, if I zoom in, hopefully you might be able to get a better impression of how the stew is thickening as we put this paste in. In goes the second tablespoon of the paste we've made from the oil that floated to the top, and a couple of tablespoons of flour. So as I stir stir this. I'm on a low flame, not on a high flame. I'm on a low flame, so this stage of the stew is gradual. A gradual process of the stew arriving at a stage of thickness that really that we can put in our dishes, and makes it rather more appetizing if it's got a bit of thickness, I believe. Obviously, there's a lot of food cultures in the world that wouldn't thicken it, they just have it in like a runny broth, which is brilliant. But I like it with a little bit of thickness in, frankly. So I'm going to just increase my heat a little bit. Okay, we've got the lovely hubble bubble boil and trouble going on in the witch's cauldron. Bit of salt and pepper there going in, about ½ teaspoon of each. And as you can see, the flour that we popped in before has given us a little bit of thickness now, not too much. So obviously we're going to put this 2 level tablespoons of chickpeas that I've mashed, taken out of the stew, and I'm going to now I've mashed those up as I said before, and that lump, I suppose effectively it's almost like a hummus, isn't it? That lump of chickpea mash is now going to go in there, and that will contribute to giving us a little bit more thickness, a little bit more body in the stew. And the problem with thickening stews with a carb like corn flour or flour, the more flour you use in a sauce or a stew, the more flavour you take out. So it's always amazing if you can thicken with a natural ingredient like a starchy vegetable. I did a apple and sage gravy the other day on the channel, and I thickened that by blending the onion and the apple, and it gave it just enough thickness. And as you can see, I'm going to just try and zoom in for you so you can get a bit more of an idea of the thickness of this going on. So I'm really very pleased with that now, and that's in total, this has took us in total cooking time about an hour and 15 minutes. Obviously we've used boneless chicken, and we've used a combination of breast and thigh, and I shall put all the ingredients in the description box below afterwards. So as far as I'm concerned, that chicken stew is now cooked. I'm going to pop in my spoon and have a little taste of it, because I have seasoned it with salt and pepper. And I'm going to tell you, I'm very pleased with that. There isn't a lot of spice in there because we didn't use any dried chilies. We used one seedless jalapeño chili in there. So the flavour of that is perfect. There isn't just a pasta, rice or potato in there. We're going to have a chunk of bread with it ourselves. You, however, oh my God, you can put anything you want in there, can't you? So I'm going to give that another 5 or 6 minutes, and then that is effectively, that's ready to serve. And hopefully I haven't took up too much of your time today. The stew's now finished, and as you can see, it's a beautiful consistency. I'm very happy with it. It tastes great too. I'm now going to pop it in my dish. There's the dish. I want to try and go a little bit closer if we can. There we are. A little bit closer, and now you can have a little bit better view of the stew itself as it goes in the dish. And I'm going to tell you, there's nothing wrong with this at all. Considering this was one of those dishes that I looked at the fridge and thought, should I cook today rather? So I'm quite pleased actually with it. So yeah, that's the dish. I'm very, very pleased with it indeed. And hopefully you guys will view this first video that I've done in this way. Hopefully you'll view it favourably and come back and watch some more. And if anybody out there hasn't subscribed, I'd be very grateful if you could. I'm thanking everyone for joining me today, watching me create this rather beautiful winter hearty chicken and chickpea stew. I'll see you guys very soon.